What's going on, y'all? Jupiter Bassin. So today we are going to go ahead and do a review of this beast, the Native Titan X 12.5. We've had this for almost a year now, so let's give you my pros and cons. Let's dive in. All right, y'all, so let's get started with the Titan X 12.5, and I will say this thing lives up to its name. It is a beast. I absolutely love this thing. We're gonna go ahead and start with the pros of the kayak, and then a little later we'll move into the cons. All right, y'all, so the first thing I want to start with this kayak is it is a massive kayak. So this 12-foot, 8-inch kayak really gives you a lot of space to work with. Now, me being a big guy, I'm 6'6", over 300 pounds, and I have tons of room for my legs, tons of space in this kayak. And the great thing about it is there's so much that you can go ahead and customize on here. A lot of spaces for putting cameras, putting gear. You know, you never feel like you can run out of room for tackle storage. And they really thought about the fishermen whenever they built this kayak. All right, y'all, so getting started, we have the XI3 in the front, which this kayak was designed to have a bow motor on it. So there is a perfect spot here on the front of the kayak to mount this XI3 on here. And then you have this power plate where you have your power running as well as a release for the XI3. And then there's plenty of room in this hatch, but I'm able to fit my battery as well as the module for the live scope and, you know, a few other wires and accessories in here. We have our bar here, our captain's bridge, that we have our fish finder as well as a phone holder, and then we keep all of our action camera stuff on here. And then moving into the cockpit of the kayak, I mean, there's a ton of space, like I said, for, you know, leg room. And then you have these two bins on each side to go ahead and put lures in. You know, we have our live scope mount on the side here. You have rod storage, which I kind of ran my wiring for the live scope in here, but we have we have rod storage on each side, as well as you have these, the front facing rod holder, which is coming so much handy for me to be able to set my rod in here whenever I have a fish on and trying to get the fish off the hook, you know. And then you have the storage under the seat, you know, your tray to go ahead and put your scale, you know, your pliers, any extra camera stuff, phone if you don't want to have it on the deck. And then moving to the back, you have your battery box here, which we'll go ahead into that in a minute too. And then I can easily fit a 13 by 13 black pack on here, which will hold all my rods and all my gear. So plenty of room on here. All right, so going back to the back, you have the ability to put a power pole on each side, as well as a stern mount, putting in, you know, whether it be your Torpedo or your Newport vessels, either NK 180 or 300. Just a lot of space on here. So it is a really big kayak, and that is the first positive that I really like about this, is the space on this thing. All right, y'all, so this is the biggest pro to this kayak, and that's gonna be the stability. This thing is awesome. Now, your boy is 6'6", and I'm not that graceful. I would say I have the grace of a baby giraffe when it comes to my movement on this thing, and my sea legs are not good. And then to add on to that fact, your boy never passes up on a cheeseburger, so we got some poundage on here. But I will say though, for my center of gravity being a lot higher than a lot of other people, this thing handles me so well. And what I mean by that is the primary stability on this thing, when I'm standing up or sitting down, I don't rock, I don't move. I feel so comfortable in this kayak that I know that I'm not gonna tip it. I can kind of reach over, not have any worries of any stability or any issues of me kind of flipping or capsizing this kayak. Now, when I'm standing, the secondary stability on this thing is really good as well. And I think to say the Titan X, and I've been in quite a few kayaks, the Titan X probably has the best primary and secondary stability of any kayak. All right, so when I'm standing up on this baby, I can go ahead and run my XI3 at full power and there can be some chops, some waves, and I could stand up on it and have no problem going around. And like I said, I'm not the most graceful when it comes to my sea legs, and I feel very comfortable and very solid standing up with my high center of gravity. And I had, my old kayak was actually a Wilderness Systems Recon, and I thought that was pretty great. But when I stepped into this one, it was like night and day. So this Titan X 12.5 really raises the bar in stability. So I will say that is my #1 pro to this kayak. All right, y'all, so the next thing I want to talk about here is going to be the performance. Now, stability has some to do with that, but what I really want to go over is how this thing paddles, how it pedals, and how this thing is able to turn. Now, this kayak's 12.5 or 12 foot 8 inches, which basically is a barge in the world of kayaks. Most kayaks, high 12s, and then you get into like 13.5 feet or like the top of the line size kayaks for, people in general. Now, this kayak, I've been on some bigger kayaks, and I have to say, with the rudder down, this thing turns on a dime for how big it is. It handles waves really well, and when I'm, the tracking on it, when the rudder is completely down, it'll stay perfectly straight in a line when I'm running my XI3. And I will say, whenever I have the rudder up and it's not deployed, I pedal on this thing pretty good. It turns sharp, and it's more of a gradual turn versus whenever I have the rudder deployed, it's going to turn a lot sharper, but it's almost to where it's too sharp with it down. So I prefer it actually up whenever I'm, pedaling. And whenever I'm paddling, it doesn't really make a difference. I really just keep it, up and not deployed. And I have no problem tracking in this thing. I will say paddling is a beast, but it is very doable in this kayak, which is very impressive. So I can't even give it a con for paddling. This kayak is not designed to be a paddle kayak. It is designed to be a motorized / pedal kayak. So the fact that you can actually paddle this thing half decent, you have to give it a pro. My next pro we're going to talk about is this seat. This seat is really comfortable. This is the Millennium seat. It's really high enough. I haven't added any kind of spacers or anything to kind of raise this up, as well as it is a swivel seat. Now, this seat is actually the pros, it's going to be on my pros and cons, and I'll let you know about that a little later on why it's on the cons. But with the swivel seat, this thing's awesome. I actually have the seat, the adjustable seat, so it actually locks the seat in place, and whenever I want to move it, I just pull up on the lever and I can swivel around. I actually do prefer the regular just swivel seat in general versus having the locking seat. But this seat is overall comfortable. I really don't need like a kayak cushion or anything to go ahead and run an 8 to 10 hour fishing day on this kayak. The seat is comfortable enough, and like I said, it's high enough and wide enough for me as a big boy. So I really do like the seat, and I think it was a great addition to the native Titan. So as we were talking about this kayak, another pro, and we kind of went into this on the size of the kayak, but it's going to be the amount of track space, and the ability to customize this kayak is really great. So let's go ahead and flip this baby around and we'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so on both sides you have this long gear track here on each side, as well as in the front you have these two on each side, so you can go ahead and mount a captain's bridge or your fish finders here. And then as well, you have this one right here, this screw where you can actually put, a camera right here on top as well. So you really have a lot of space to do stuff on here, as well as you have this massive gear track in the back, as well as this gear track here on the very back of the stern of the kayak. A lot of space for you to go ahead and customize this thing how you want to, and there's no shortage of track space on this kayak. All right, y'all, so I think it's time to go over the cons of this kayak, and there's not too many of them, but the first one that I will go over, and it is the most obvious of these, is with this being a giant kayak, I think it's 174 pounds without any added stuff on the back. This thing's heavy. It is one of the heaviest kayaks, and with that being said, it is hard to load and unload this kayak, you know, when you're at the ramp or if you're putting it on your truck or trailering it. I would say the ultimate option would be to trailer this kayak. So if trailering is not an option, then the Native Sidekick is a pretty good solution. Now I will say, I've had the Sidekicks since I bought the Titan. I really wish I would have kept the trailer I had, but with the Sidekicks, it's been great. It handles moving it around forward and back pretty well for a big kayak. Now, where the cons are with that is deploying and putting back up the legs on the Sidekick is not the easiest thing to do. And after a while, you know, the paint starts to chip off and it makes it a little harder to go ahead and get those, you know, those individual legs back in their hole. And that can be some issues, as well as when you're deploying it, or whenever you're taking the kayak in and out of the water, you kind of have to get in the water to go ahead and take those legs in and out. So that's kind of an issue, especially now. It is winter here. And now it might not be as cold as you guys up north, but here in Florida, your water temperatures get anywhere from like 54 to like 65, 66 around this time of year. That can be really cold, and you don't really want to go up to your knees unless you have waders or something on like that. And you're going to definitely need those this time of year if you don't want to get sick or get pneumonia. So that's kind of a negative of it too. So going into the reason why I took the XI3 off is this plate right here, Native, this was, I believe, the second version of the plate that Native made. The first one, it was just straight right here. I think it actually came out to right where the handle is. And then they kind of made this curved edge, so it runs right alongside of it, so you have a good way to grip the handle. But where the problem lies is, I have one of the first, I wouldn't say the first, I said the second or so run of the Titan X's. So they didn't really reinforce the front handle here. So I always have that continuous worry without having some extra support here, that if I pull on this forward, that this handle could actually come off, which was a huge problem for a lot of Titan owners. Not so much the lifting up, but the more of the pushing it forward. And to get up a ramp, you kind of have to pull forward to bring this up the ramp with the Sidekicks on. So that is going to be definitely a con for me. They have now since, I believe, reinforced this, as well as the new bow mounting plate actually goes over and has an additional piece of this like board to cover it up to be able to hold it. So they have reinforced it. They have found somewhat of a solution. I do believe as well, so since these older versions of the Titan X, they have actually put a ring in the front for you to go ahead and attach your trailer to whenever you're you know, cranking that up. So, I mean, they have listened and they have done stuff to improve it, but for me it's a negative because I got my bow plate whenever I bought my Titan, and since then they've come out with a new one, and I'm not trying to drop another 40 or 50 bucks on that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next con. All right, y'all, so we have moved the pedal drive. This is gonna be one of the main focuses of the issues that I have with this kayak. So, on the front, you can see these latches. These are all good. I do like the fact that this is made in the USA. That is a positive that I didn't mention earlier, but I do love that this is made in the US. So, with that being said, when you take this off, my big issue in here is, and I have this, I actually picked up this drive scupper. Let me pull that out. I picked up this drive scupper from Native that is supposed to seal this off from water coming in, which it still finds its way up in through. And the seal on this isn't the greatest. So water will come up into the kayak and it will puddle up in here a little bit if you do not either hold down on this or if you don't put some sort of weather sealing under here. Now, the best solution that I've found is, even with having this scupper in, like I said, it still comes through. You have to put weather stripping along the edge of this to actually like kind of double seal it. So that's a big negative for me. This kayak was designed to be a powered kayak, so you would think that they really should have thought, if you don't have the pedal drive in, you should be able to run this thing without having the pedals in and not get water coming up through the drive hole. All right, y'all, so the next thing that I'm gonna talk about with the drive is going to be, there's an issue with the pedals being in and like a rubbing inside of the drive hole. Now, Connor with the Untamed Outdoorsman, he brought this to attention in a Native Titan X group, which if you guys do get the Native Titan X, I would highly recommend joining that group. There's a lot of guys in there that will answer questions for you, as well as kind of go over any issues they've had so you can kind of prevent it or even get help from Native and kind of go through and, you know, you can all just collectively, you know, give your input and stuff. And a lot of cool guys in there. They have a lot of hacks for the Native Titan, so check that out. But we're gonna go ahead and look and see what I'm talking about. The drive hole here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a little bit of a rub here, which he had to actually get a new Titan X, which is not a good thing that you have to use your warranty for a hull replacement so soon. I think he only had it like 6 months from that. So on mine, you can see a little scratching and rubbing. I believe the way that Native designed this, the drive actually does rub up against this back, and it eventually caused a hole for him. Now, I don't really use mine that much, so I didn't have to worry about it, but other guys have said that there's this kind of punctured through, but it looks like with my use and the way I'm using the drive, I don't really have that hole there. So I would highly recommend, if you had it, put some padding on the back of this to make sure that, you know, you don't rub through a hole using your pedal drive. All right, y'all, so I did tell you there was a con about this seat. So my big con with the seat was I actually had to get, you know, the swivel part replaced. Actually, the bearing in it is a plastic bearing, and it eventually broke after about 4 months of me using it. And I had to get Native to go ahead and give me a replacement, which that's where they gave me the locking one, which I don't like as much, but it's still pretty great. It stays locked, and if I want to swivel, I can go ahead and pull on the lever and swivel around. But you really shouldn't have to have that issue of having to replace that so soon. So I definitely want to go ahead and mention that. All right, y'all, so that's going to do it for my overview for almost a year of having the Titan X. I absolutely love this thing. You know, the stability, the performance, the size of this kayak are all really great. As a big guy, I couldn't ask for a better kayak to have, and I do think this is one of the top kayaks in the market. This thing overall, for somebody that's a tournament angler or a serious fishing kayak angler, I think this is the best option that you can have for a fishing kayak. Go ahead and leave me any kind of comments that you want to know about the Titan X. If I didn't speak or talk about anything that you wanted to know about it, let me know. I'll be glad to answer anything that you guys have for me. So feel free to put anything down there. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Until next time, y'all, peace.